Hey, welcome to the YouGoin'Pro channel. This is your very own Coach Larry, and I'm going to be talking about some very key things. This is going to be a little bit more of an extensive episode today, so I just want to make sure it's going to be a little bit longer than normal because I'm going to break down the levels of baseball. And today's topic is what level of baseball are at right now today? Because there's several different levels. D1, D2, D3, NAIA, and there's also another level besides JUCO. There's something called the NCCAA, National Christian College Association. That's a new one. Hasn't been out very long, but I'm not going to talk about that due to the fact we're going to go a little bit longer than normal. So we're going to break it down. Today, we're going to talk about the levels of competition and play. We're going to talk about the academic and financial resources, and we're going to give you some examples of guys that have played at the high level at different tiers, like D1, D2, D3, NAI. Because today is your day to break. I'm going to break it down. A man or a coach that has played at several different levels. I want to make sure that I equip you. So I got a question for you. What would your life look like being a senior in college? I'm sorry, senior in high school and knowing what to do? What would that look like to you? What would it be like if you were trying to get a scholarship and have all the tools you need to pick the right school? What would it look like if you went to high school and you had this dream school, but your academics wasn't worth to par? What would that look like? So that's why we're going to talk about what level of baseball are you at ready for right now today, 2025. So as I'm wearing this shirt today, whosoever believe. Now you got to believe. Now I'm going to break it down. So we're going to talk about the levels of play and competition. And the first one we're going to talk about is the D1. Everyone talks about D1. That is the pinnacle that's the highest level of amateur baseball or amateur sports. That's the highest level, D1. With that, you're going to have elite players, a rigorous training. Basically, once you hit the campus, you report to your coach, coordinator, whoever that might be, assistant coach. They're going to give you a schedule from day one, whatever it's going to be. So if baseball, normally it's fall baseball, fall training, fall extensive weight training. You're going to be on a regimen of training, workout, hitting, whatever the case may be, because there are some rules you have to go by. So the schedule is going to be extensive, and you're going to get national exposure. So basically, everything you do is going to be on a microscope from the day you hit the campus. That's D1. D2. It's still highly competitive, but it's a little bit more balanced when it comes to athletics and academics. Some D2 programs can compete with lower level D1 schools. They can compete, like play against them. I didn't say they can beat them, but if it was around 7 games, we'll see what happens. But there are some D2 schools. We're going to talk about that later as we talk about in today's episode. But I just want to break it down. D2, like I said, they're very highly competitive. A little bit more flexibility when it comes to academics and athletics. The schedule's not as rigid depending on the program, but also they can compete at some of the lower level D1 baseball programs. So that's the competition. So let's talk about D3. D3 focuses more on academics. Bottom line, that's the one thing they focus on. But they're very competitive. You're not going to have the guys throwing 96, 97. They're not going to have a changeup that's, 85, 86 for the most part. So I want you to understand that D3 really focuses on academics, but there is some competitive D3 schools, and we're going to talk about that. So the question is, if you're making a decision to go to a D1, two, D3 school, there's no there's no athletic scholarships. Bottom line, there's none. No athletic. Basically, everything is academics. So I want to make sure you understand with that. Now there are some I'm sorry, D3 schools that can play against D3 schools. There are some they can play. Now there was a kid, young man, I don't want to say kid, young man that played D3 school for this first 3 years. This happened this year. Now he's playing for the University of Auburn. He doesn't play that much, but his very first at bat, check it out on YouTube. Very first at bat, hit a home run. So I mean, you talk about University of Auburn as a SEC2 school, they're throwing heat, they're throwing gas, they're mixing it up, top level baseball. So he come from a D3 school. So if you can play, you can play. But this depends on where you fit. What's the best fit? That's why we're talking about what level of baseball are you ready for right now today, coming out of high school or coming out of JUCO. And this last one we'll talk about today is NAIA. Now, NAIA, I can speak from experience. Coming from a JUCO, going to a NAIA school, I've seen guys that can compete. Throwing 95, 96 miles per hour, throwing gas, change-up, cutters. I've seen knuckleball. But it was competitive. It's comparable to a D2, as far as competition, and it is a very attractive. There's a lot of great talent in NAIA schools. Just want to make sure you know that the level of play is pretty much comparable to D2. Not saying it is, but it's very comparable for the most part. So that's what we're talking about today so far at the level of play of competition. Now we'll go to the second part of that. The second part of what level of baseball are you ready for? We're going to talk about the academics and the financial resources. D1, people think that they get full scholarship for baseball. You don't get full scholarships. Now, I'm going to break it down what I mean by that, because for the most part, baseball is not a predominantly revenue thing that comes for the school. It doesn't generate a lot of revenue. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but for the most part, most big universities